Napoleonic time, now in wet dock in Hartlepool as a museum article.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. This is part of the fire.
All the guns going and washed away the water. So there we got fire missile.
That's right.
There's a big hole sticking there.
The ship's capstan, the hull lines up and down such as anchors. No, they're going to put them below decks on the ship. Shows how dark this area could be in height of battle and how crowded it would be as well.
I think what you've got to think of is that there's actually quite a lot of electric light down here at the moment. It's quite dark. I mean, at the time there wouldn't have been any electric light and it would have been a lot duller.
It would. So you can understand how people's eyesight would have to be reasonably good to see where they're going. If they couldn't see very well, they'd have to feel their way around the inside of this part of the boat.
Or of course instinctively just know where things were.
That's very true. So Michael, what do you think of it then?
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And to know that one of these boats still afloat, it's still rigged up as if it was going to sail out of the harbour tomorrow.
People in those days would have been quite short in those days.
They would indeed. They wouldn't be your
It would
height.
be my height. So
Because the deck beams are very low compared with your height, aren't they?
because if you can see, guys.
Yes, you hit the deck, well and truly.
Literally.
You're inside the
virtually
deck.
hit the deck.
You're inside the top of the deck there, aren't you, Michael?
Yeah.
And
About
But
that
Tricia,
much.
on the other hand,
that
is
much,
about the right
guys.
height for
I'm
here,
5'4".
and you're just about the right height.
And I'm about that much, guys, from hitting the deck. Not that much.
The underside of the top deck above our heads. Not much room at all, is there, Michael?
No.
Simon,
That much.
it's a big cleat.
A big cleat, yes, there is a big cleat.
And this one, about that much.
Not much. No, so you wouldn't be any good in this boat down below, would you, Michael?
No.
You're too high.
Yeah.
You need to be shorter.
Yeah.
This is part of the ship that's laid out for sleeping accommodation. As you can see, no fixed beds, just hammocks for the crew to hang in and sleep when they're off duty. And as you see, there's not a lot of room in here at all. And even I'm 5'9", high up to duck below the deck beams, so I wouldn't be any good down here either, because I'm too tall.
The thing is as well, as you can see, they've got benches underneath them so that they can slide the hammocks to one side and sit down to eat.
That's true, isn't it? Very much so. Same place. So space was of a premium in those days, so everything had to have a double purpose. And so you can see, not a lot of room for anybody.
Do you want me to start again? Yeah. And it is dedicated to the memory of Nicholas Coleman, who joined this ship in 1852, aged 15 years. And it is dedicated to all the young people who followed him from Chalk Ridge School in 1985. Example.
This is an example of what used to be called for a square meal a day. The trays which the sailors ate off was a square plate, not a round plate, because square plates would actually stay in place while they were eating their food. And as you see, there's a replica of a ship's biscuit and a game of dominoes which the sailors would play in their downtime when they weren't being used for sailing the ship, and tankards for ale and also for having their rum ration. And on this table, another square meal, not very looking very savoury at all. Probably a meat stew with a lump of crusty bread,
A few vegetables.
and a few vegetables, but not much. But this is what they had to eat and live on when aboard ship. No more dry ship's biscuits, tankards for drinking out of, and simple spoons for eating their food. Now this is the officer's wardroom with nice plates, good food, wine and fine dining for the officers of the ship in its day. A long way from the ratings food on square plates on hanging tables further along the ship. So a great deal of difference between the two lots of people on the boat. Looking forward down the port side of the ship with all the cannons set out ready to fire, and as if all we need now is the men to fire them. And unfortunately part of it's actually under maintenance, so we can't go down both sides of the deck, but we can look down it. And behind this cover here is the ship's wheel, head of the last mast of the boat. And there's a rig. It's a very tall rig. And must have been a real sight when she was at sea with all this sail set and her screaming down the waves on her passages around the world. So it's nice to look around this fine vessel and the craftsmanship that made her the boat that the ship she is, and she is quite a sight, and thankfully she's still afloat to this day. Michael there contemplating life before the mast on a ship of this size. There he is, saying hello to us and enjoying himself a lot, looking at the ship and how she's rigged and the life on board the ship during its time when it was being used.